Namaskar. This is a continuation of my previous lecture, which had some video audio problems. So I'm going to repeat, but this is more going to be a negative spiel on love jihad rather than a positive one, because it's very important for to understand. Let's first try to understand the notion of love jihad. It's the central point of contention is having an affair with someone through deception, the intention. The intention is conversion. And whether or not it's affection or reality, that is the feminist analysis. That's the part that we have to do. Now, I said that since the last video wasn't very good, I'm going to again repeat some of it, but most of it would be from the negative point of view. So, what is going on? We talked about Africa and the same thing in the subcontinent. The first Muslim traders came in as traders and saints, and they intermingled because they exchanged, traded, and there were people who were doing healing and so forth. So they lived in zongas or outside community. And we also said that the community itself, the kinship structure, was bounded by everyone's a blood relation. So one of the ways of entry into the mainstream community is through marriage. Marriage is an exchange. And we talked about this earlier. Levi Strauss said, what is marriage? It's the transaction of women from tribe to tribe for the purpose of creating bondage. And that intent was not something hidden. It was transacted, woman was transacted. So these zongas, the outsiders, got an entry into the community, every one of whom were bounded. Our entire village had blood relation, kinship relation. Although the first settler, and we talked about this with the land, was the chief. And he was the steward of the land, because as in Africa, so also in the Indian subcontinent, no one owned the land. That's a very capitalist idea. So they were stewards of the land, but they were first settlers. Now, so that we can't call love jihad in no sense. Then we come to jihad. This is jihad al-Qawal. And then we come to jihad bin al-Saf, which is the jihad of the sword, forcible. Invaders coming in, and then there were internal quarrels and so forth, and then they get to the throne. And then also there was transaction of women again for the purpose of creating peace treaty and so forth. And we've seen this in India with King Akbar establishing kinship relation. It's also entry into the mainstream community, because he's still an outsider, because he's not part of the main group, ethnic group and religious group. All these were same at that time. In fact, later on, I'll read a small passage from Africa where someone who is a Zulu, he identifies himself as a Zulu, which is an ethnic identity. He's saying, what is your religion? Saying, I'm a Zulu. That's the religion. It's the same with Hindus. The ethnicity and faith, they all mingle together. It's through practice, not through set laws. So that too is an entry into the kinship, into the mainstream, to assimilate. Now, then we come to modern age, because this is a term that we use in modern age. Is it happening? Well, we have to gather a lot of statistics to validate it. Whether there is a huge conspiracy of men grabbing women, indigenous women, etc., for the purpose and performing love, deception, for the purpose of conversion. So we have to do that statistics, otherwise it won't make sense. Like, we can't just blanket say, but what we can say are a couple of things that I mentioned earlier, but here I'm going to go into the more negative part. Why is it that it's always the indigenous native woman and the Muslim men? For one thing, let us make a distinction between places where there's a Muslim majority and where there are minority. Where there is a Muslim majority, as in, say, Iraq or Bangladesh, there can't be a love jihad, because the whole purpose is genocide and ethnic cleansing. Either they convert or they leave, which has happened to the Kashmiri Pandits. So it's open. It's not, that deception is not there. It's very open. Kashmiri, they will tell you that they were told that either you convert or you leave or you get killed. But let the women be, because that's the womb. This is the womb jihad that is happening. That we can call it the womb jihad or the uterus jihad, but not love jihad, because it was open. Again, there's no deception. Same with the Yazidis in Iraq. The whole idea is to destroy the non-believers, kafirs. And so that what is the ultimate aim from going from Darul Harb to Darul Islam? Now, we come to where Muslims are a minority. For example, in India or in Europe. What's happening there? Is it possible? Now, the two questions that we need to ask: why is it that always is the women from the majority group? See, the first thing, as I said before in the lecture, which because the audio was so bad people couldn't hear it, I'm going to repeat it, is because the same thing that happened in the United States. In the majority community, women are more educated and they're more sexually free. That's not true in all majority communities, but in certain majority communities that is true. For example, the white women in the United States or in Europe and the Hindu women in India, they are more sexually accessible in the cosmopolitan atmosphere. That's one thing. And the second thing is the thing of comradeship. Traditionally, marriage is just for kinship structures. This is the whole economic purpose of marriage, which is why Marx's base superstructure that we talked about is deconstructed by Linda Nicholson. We'll go through that again, where the base is really kinship structure, which held. Modern marriages, because the huge family household, we don't live in household, we live in nuclear families. Modern marriages are more partner-based. And so many educated cosmopolitan Muslim men cannot find enough women in their own community. And so what they do is they get women from the majority community, which is what happened during colonial times, as I mentioned earlier, with Indian men who used to go to England and they got educated. They found these English girls more to their liking, like friendship, comradeship, etc., rather than coming back and having an arranged marriage with a very young girl, little girl who's completely uneducated, illiterate, not only uneducated but illiterate. So what is our solution? There's a third thing that we have to address. Why is it that some faiths force you to convert into the religion of your spouse? It is true that in patriarchy, women have to change their names, their gotras, but it's also special that in some religion, regardless of the gender, men or women, they have to adopt the faith of the spouse. This is something we have to address. Why is this being taken for granted, that I cannot marry you unless you adopt my faith? I think instead of this continuous debate between the left and right on whether love jihad is a conspiracy, whether it's true, because it's difficult to say how much of that deception, it is possible, because the ultimate aim is still for a group of people, not for everyone. The conversion into Darul Harb, there is a mujahideen, and I'll talk about this metaphysics later, who comes at the end of every era, not like the avatar. The mujahideen is not a reincarnation of the divine. And then the end, the Mahdi, the real fighter will come. They will establish the Darul Islam, which is the ultimate aim. It is possible that there is a conspiracy going on and the deception, the love jihad is happening. But it's also possible that it's not as widespread. I think what the right misses is that there is a widespread conspiracy. How is that possible, that deception? And they term a lot of different things as love jihad, where there is consent, where all these complexities of women in the majority community in secular nations, more advanced nations, are freer, and so they have a choice of partners rather than Muslim women whose sexualities are guarded. And questions like partnership, a very cosmopolitan Muslim man is unable to get a similar a Muslim woman who is also in the partnership. The right wing is missing that. Left wing is what they are denying completely, that from the indigenous community during colonization, there's always this taking of the woman to go into the kinship structure. They're completely missing this, and of course the possibility of love jihad at this point. But we have to address these three questions. Why are these very cosmopolitan Muslim men not getting women from their own community? We have to educate, empower women, etc. from that community. Why conversion? Two people can fall in love, they'd be in love, and they can have a marital relationship without being converted. Each has his own faith. And for the children, they can practice both or neither, or however they want. And then the other thing that's very important, why is always women from the more advanced society where women's sexualities are freer, not free. Women's sexualities are never free. So these are the questions, especially the question about why conversion is happening. See, women converting to some extent, not faith-wise, but their last names, their gotras, all these are true in cultures across the world. But why is it still in some cultures you're forced to convert religion? Because the first two in advanced societies, I mean economically advanced, that's not a very good word to use, because then we are saying indigenous communities were not advanced. They're maybe in many respects psychologically they're more advanced. And women were freer also sexually. So why is it that women from these communities have access to their sexualities to some extent? They can make choices. And why they are rejecting the idea of changing their last name, changing their gotras and so forth, going for a non-traditional, non-religious, secular wedding, etc. Yet, when it comes to faith, they have to convert. So, and conversion, we will come to conversion, and we'll come to gender identity and conversion in my next lecture. But that is very important. So these are the things I wanted to say in my last video, and the video got messed up, and now today I approached it more negatively. These are the things we need to think about. For today, that is all for my lecture. Namaskar. Please subscribe, like, comment, and if you can, please donate to our organization so that we can make more videos like this. Thank you.